Hi, and welcome to Find What Moves You. My name is Tracy, and it is my hope to inspire people to stay active and healthy for their entire lives. And that is the whole point of this show. I have had people on here that are extreme runners or really spiritually connected, and today I have a new sport to introduce, and that's the sport of curling. Curling has given me a lot, and I have with me today the Northern Ontario Ladies Provincial Champions. Yay! So you all just got back from a national competition, which I am sure was very exciting for you. And I know that you all have your own stories. I've only got two of you here right now. We'll meet another one later on. I just wanted to get a sense from you what curling has given to you. So I'm going to go to you first. Kelly, if you could introduce yourself.
My name is Kelly Stevenson. I have been curling since I was 12 years old. My parents introduced me to curling. They were just doing community bonspiels at the curling club, and they thought this was something that the kids might like to do. So we started in the junior program at Quebec, and it was something that we really liked. My brother and I were both in it, and we both started curling competitively in junior. My brother went to a junior national. I, however, fell short. But that's okay.
But that changed, I know that.
That's okay. He was always my biggest fan. He always hoped for me to go to a national, which I have accomplished a couple times. But I went through the junior program, and then I graduated to ladies curling, and it was still Ontario then. It wasn't Northern Ontario, so it was a pretty tough field. And I went to, I think, 5 or 6 provincials, and sometimes we did okay, and sometimes we didn't do okay. But we always showed well. It wasn't because we weren't curling well. It was just things weren't falling into line. And then after that, I had some children, and they started curling. I introduced them to curling. Their father was actually also a competitive curler, and I got to curl with my sons. And my one son, along with your son, went to a junior national, and they did well. They didn't win, but they did well. Mm-hmm. And I've also gotten to curl with my dad. I've curled with my dad in playdowns. So curling is a sport where it doesn't matter what your age is. You can curl with your kids, you can curl with your parents. Everyone gets involved. Curling has been a big part of my life. It's something that I really like to do. I've played all the positions at a provincial except for lead. I'll have to work on that one. Tracy.
That's okay. I think it's taken care of on your team. Yeah. So there's a couple of things that you said for people that we're trying to inspire people to come into the curling world. Mm-hmm. So you said, first of all, bonspiel. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be kind of nice for you to explain what that means.
So a bonspiel is when you can, it's not, the slots aren't appointed. You sign up if you want to curl in a bonspiel, and right now they used to be ladies and men's bonspiels, but now they just have, and mixed. Now they have open bonspiels, so the women can get right in there and curl with the men and show them how it's done. And no, really,
yeah,
because we are champions of a bonspiel recently where we beat men.
So I'm going to pause you there for just 1 second. Curling is one of those sports where we have a fairly equal playing field,
it is.
Right?
It's very equal.
Okay,
yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes. So you bring your team in, and there's a draw. You play over 3 days, and you play at all times, and it's for camaraderie. You come out, you play against teams, you meet new people, you go up and you have a beverage after the game. You get to know other people. They always have a dance or something or music, and you're making friends. You're meeting other people that are out in the curling world or in the community. You meet new curlers. You meet curlers that have curled for a very long time. And it's always a lot of fun. We always manage to have a lot of fun.
So the one thing I really like about bonspiels is that it doesn't matter if you're a brand new curler. No one cares.
Exactly.
It's not like a competitive curling league where you have to be really good. Like you can come out for your very first time to a bonspiel and do okay. You said There's usually a beverage involved. There's usually snacks involved too.
Yes.
And prizes. And
And
it's not
prizes.
necessarily for the person that is the best curler.
That's
Often
correct.
there'll be some, they'll maybe draw out of a hat who was closest to the button or who was the furthest from the button, and the prizes will be given away that way.
First
Or-
team out.
First team out, yeah. So it's
won that
really
prize. No.
all about the fun, right? Like
exactly.
It's all about bringing people together. So
Yeah.
just a little bit, if you can just talk a little bit about, you've mentioned it a couple of times, community, camaraderie, people that have curled for a long time mixed with people that have curled only for a short time. So what kind of community has it brought for you?
So, well, I don't know. That's a question. I don't know if I can. I read the question, but I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to.
So I'm going to say just like in terms of friendships, like lifelong friendships for you.
Okay, I see what you mean. So, an example of that is no matter where you go, if you're walking through a mall, if you're in an airport in Toronto, no matter where you go, there's always someone that says hi to you or says hi, Kelly, and it's 90% of the time it's someone from curling.
Yeah.
Because you curl in leagues, you curl in bonspiels, you curl in competitions, you go to provincials, you go to nationals, and you meet so many people. And there's always, and people remember that. Like you remember people and people remember you because it's a lot of fun. Curling involves everyone. Like you said, it can be new people, it can be people that have curled for a long time. Some people that just learned will bring out newer people, but then people that have curled forever want their friends and their relatives to join, and they'll bring out new people. And it's not just for the experience, it's fun for everybody, and it involves like everybody.
So, Kelly, thank you for that. There is just a little bit of time left before our break, but you have something else that moves you besides curling, an inspiration that I wouldn't mind you sharing with everyone.
So I ride a Harley Davidson motorcycle. It's one of my favorite things to do when it's very nice out. It doesn't have to be very nice because I've ridden when it's really cold out.
You just like to ride.
Yes. There's a lot of freedom in riding. You can go out and you notice things. You smell the smells and you see things that you wouldn't in a car because usually in a car you're preoccupied, but you have to pay pretty close attention when you're riding a motorcycle.
There's a freedom
Yes.
that's involved. And with riding, you have brought something very important to Thunder Bay.
So there's a group of us that have started an organization. It's called Bikers Against Child Abuse. And we work with abused children of all ages. And it's something it's very powerful. We empower these kids so that they're not afraid. And it's something that's very close to our hearts, the group that has started it. And we spend, if I'm not curling or riding, well, when I'm riding my motorcycle, I'm actually doing that because we have, every time you're riding, you're wearing your cut saying that that's who you are.
Kelly, thank you for sharing that. I thought that was really important for you just to mention it. And we will be right back. Hi, and welcome back to Find What Moves You. Today we are talking curling, and we have swapped out one player for another. I forgot to mention that Kelly, that we were interviewing in the first segment, was the second on the Northern Ontario team. And we are now going to talk to Judy, who plays third on the Northern Ontario team. So if you could do a full introduction for me, please.
My name is Judy Bouchard, and I play third on the team.
And where and when did you start curling?
I probably started curling when I was about 11, 12, somewhere in there, in Nipigon with my family. So I don't even remember exactly when I started, but I know our parents brought us out to the curling club and taught us how to curl. Art Laplainen, another curler who used to live in the city, his dad, I remember him teaching me a little bit about how to curl. He was also from Nipigon. And actually one year when I was, I think 15, curled with my mom and dad and my brother, who would have been 14 at the time, and we actually won the mixed club championships. And not just won the mixed club championships. My brother and I were actually out visiting my grandparents in Alberta, skiing in the Rockies, flew home, got off the plane, drove to the club, then we won the club championships.
So your family was pretty good.
No.
Yeah, you guys
My
did.
brother was.
You did well. Like
Yeah.
actually, your whole family is fairly accomplished, right?
Yeah,
Your-
I think everybody was a competitive curler, but
Your mom was a coach as well.
my mom coached. She started the junior program in Nipigon, are one of the starters, and helped coach the kids. My parents curled competitively at provincial mixed. My mom took some runs at the women's provincials. My brother actually curled in the 1985 Canadian Junior Championships in Newfoundland. So I just watched.
So your dad still stick curls, right?
Yeah.
Can you just give a little description of that? Just because there's people that are thinking, I can't get down there and slide.
Yeah.
So maybe if you can just talk about that for a moment.
My dad loves his curling. He has curled a long time. He moved to Parksville in BC, probably about 15 years ago, and curled regular curling. And then maybe it's even been 10 years, he started doing stick curling, and he would curl in the regular league, he would curl in the stick league. He probably curled 5 days a week out there, and went to Canadian Stick Championships. And it's a different game, so it's a very social game. It only takes about an hour. You have 2 people on a team, and there's young people, disabled people, older people.
So they're standing up with a stick instead of
Yeah.
getting down in what we call the hack where we throw from, right?
Yeah.
And I know when the stick curling first started, it was people were having trouble with it, and maybe it wasn't that skilled. But now people have really come to enjoy stick curling, and even if you can slide, I know people are doing stick curling tournaments.
That's right, yeah. And I went to watch my dad when he was in the Canadian Stick Curling Championships in Winnipeg. And there was actually a team from Saskatchewan, and they were 2 former Briar curlers, and they were deadly with the stick.
Lights out. I know.
Lights out, for sure.
When we come up against the stick curlers now, it's like, oh boy, we're in trouble. Yeah. Because they seem to be able to be just that much more accurate with those sticks.
Yeah.
So if you're not thinking that you can slide, the way that you've seen curlers do on TV, stick curling might be something you want to look at.
Alternative.
So you and I have both been club curling provincials a few times together. Mm-hmm. It hasn't always been that there was a club level championship. It's always been like a very competitive thing. And several years ago, they instated the club curling championships. So how do you think that's changed the sport?
I think it's a great avenue for those of us who love to curl and like to do a little bit of competitive curling.
Yeah.
Without going, full out commitment.
It's a full-time
Right.
job for the highly competitive people.
curlers,
Yeah.
Put a lot of time and energy into it. So for those of us who enjoy the curling and enjoy the little bit of competitive curling and just like having fun with their friends, it's a great avenue.
And sends regular folks to national
Yeah.
competitions, right?
Right.
So I mentioned again, you'd been to a couple provincials, and I know about one in particular that was interesting, where you had an injury just before. So just for fun's sake, can you tell us about that?
That was in 2017. We had won our regional competition, and we were off to provincials at the end of March. And I got up like I normally do, 6 a.m, take the dogs out. One of our lovely ice storms. I stepped off my step, slipped, fell back onto the cement pad, and broke my wrist. That was March 3rd. I think we were heading out to North Bay around the 23rd, 25th, somewhere around there. So all I remember is thinking, no, I have to curl. I can't have broken my wrist.
Never mind about work or anything like that. I have to curl.
I have to curl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they put it in a cast, and I was off work for a little while. Went back to the doctor, and as soon as he said I could try going on the ice, I was there.
Which wasn't that long after.
No,
I
think
happen
it
to know
was-
that.
Yeah, well, we only had about 3 weeks to do it. And so I went to try to practice, and when I got them to put the cast on, I asked if I could bring my curling broom to mold it around the broom, and the guy's like, well, you don't need to curl your hair. I'm like, oh, people. I'm not going to explain this. But.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was really difficult to do my normal slide. It was my left hand that I broke, so I was able to hold on to the rock, but normally you would kind of use your broom for a little bit of a balance, and I couldn't do that. So Brent at the club was kind enough to see me struggling and find a solution, and went and got what they call a crutch. So it's just a stabilizer for me to use. So I was able to take my hand and just kind of very lightly balance on it and learn how to deliver a rock again.
So I also know that you tried to suggest to your team that maybe they should take someone else
Yeah.
to that provincial championship, and your team had none of it because you
No.
belonged on that team.
Yes.
And you know, you stayed on the team, and you guys maybe didn't do as well as you would have
No.
otherwise, but it speaks to, I've already mentioned it a couple times, the camaraderie, the community, and the friendships that you build
Yes.
in the sport.
Yeah, it.
I also know that on that particular trip, you got to meet someone special
I did.
in an airport. So
I
tell us
did.
about that.
So we were leaving North Bay, flying out, and I think we're just checking in, and all of a sudden you hear this southern drawl of an accent, and you turn around thinking, what? Who's here? And it was Andie MacDowell, and she had just finished filming a Hallmark Christmas movie in North Bay. So we're like, oh my goodness. So yeah, I managed to scrape up, I think I asked everybody in the airport if they had a Sharpie, managed to scrape one up, went over to her and asked her if she would sign my cast.
Lo and behold, you had a cast
Right.
available for her to
I
sign.
know. And so she's like, oh, asked what we were doing, and I said we were curling, and she says, oh, curling, you mean like chick, chick, chick? That's exactly how she described it. So yeah, it was
So another
cute,
thing that curling has brought
right?
to you.
You never know what's around the corner.
So we're going to take a short break there, and we're going to come back and talk to the skip of this team. Welcome back to Find What Moves You. As promised, we are going to talk to the skip of the Northern Ontario ladies team. Can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Jody Judd. I also wanted to introduce myself in my language, if that's okay.
Oh, are you kidding me?
In Dishnakaz Wabanganung, that means my name is Morning Star. I think it's a mistake, but that was the name that was given to me.
We would disagree with that, but okay.
I think it might still be the star that's from, from the night before, so you can still see it in the morning.
I can always count on you for a good story. Thank you so much. And when did you start curling?
I started curling when I was 19 years old. It was actually the year that I was pregnant, the same year that my dad and I were very, very close. And he had had a heart attack that year. So both of us were off work.
Yeah.
My mother and my sister, however, used to curl in the afternoon, Port Arthur Ladies Afternoon Curling League. So being as how my dad and I were both off work and we loved to spend time together, that's what we did. And we went down and watched my mother and sister curl.
There's an incredible theme here. Every single one of you has had a story where you're curling with your family. So I think that's another really important thing to stress. It's family, it's all ages, and it's fun for everybody.
Absolutely. And like I said, I was pregnant at the time that I was first introduced to curling. My dad had just had a massive heart attack and was off work, to try and get back to health and everything. And the way the curling is set up, the kind of a sport that it is, it's basically you can tailor it to your own needs. You can get out of it what you put into it. You don't have to be able to kiss the ground or kiss the ice, and you don't have to be able to get right into the hack. You can basically get anything you want out of it. It's a wonderful game, like golf.
I love that. That's a great explanation, actually. So I mentioned already that you just came back from a national competition, and you received an award while you were there.
I did.
Your team is very proud of you for that. Can you talk about that a little bit and what it meant to you?
It meant a lot. So they chose a recipient at every position, so skip through lead, to receive what they called the Sportsman Award. So somebody that embodies, the idea of sport as well as skill, though I think it's something that I've challenged myself to do. I've always been a very big introvert. Through COVID, through the isolation and everything, I've been trying to challenge myself to kind of maybe come out of my shell or do things that you don't normally do. So I was telling the story before I left of, instead of walking down the hallways with my eyes down, I'm trying to make contact with people, smile more, just, people want to talk. So that's what I've been doing. And maybe it looks like a creepy smile to begin with, but I polished it before I went to Edmonton and won the Sportsman Award.
So that was something that COVID gave you, was a transformation. And it's because small talk, I know from other conversations with you, small talk is not necessarily something that you enjoy. You would rather have the real heart of the conversation, right?
I hate pleasantries.
Thank you.
I mean, pleasantries are wonderful, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's to the meat of things, always to the meat of things, or to the crux or the fundamentals is where I go.
I love that about people too. That's the kind of conversation that I also enjoy. So you've been to many provincials as well. I am going to ask you not about the provincials, but about your proudest achievement, maybe other than the one we just discussed. That may be it, I don't know. So that or your second proudest.
My daughter,
Okay.
my granddaughter.
Okay, so I meant in curling. Your daughter's also a curler, but I like the choice in curling.
So in 1999, my mother, my sister, and a good family friend of ours, we were able to compete in the National Aboriginal Curling Championships. It was held in Saskatoon at the Granite Curling Club, and we won. It was amazing. We curled in that for a number of years. It was something that you always want to win, right? It's near and dear to your heart, and I will take that with me forever. I also won an award at that championship, and I won the All-Star Skip. And I have to give a shout out to my sister as well. She was the vice skip. I've got Judy now, but she won the All-Star Vice Award too at that championship. We did very, very well. So, from Treaty 3 here in Northwestern Ontario, we represented in '99.
If you both won those awards, that explains right there why your team won. So I'm going to shift a bit away from curling for you, because you have had not only your transformation where you're trying to smile and look at people, but you've also had physical, maybe emotional, maybe spiritual transformation as well. And I'm not going to ask you a specific question. I just want you to talk about it.
So all of the above, and I think, probably due to COVID, a lot of things, I find a lot of people have gone through, many fundamental changes due to COVID. So I lost probably about 90 pounds over the course of COVID, staying at home. It was just either you could go one way or the other, and I didn't want to go the other. So I chose to do what I could to better myself. Took a lot of inspiration from my teammates. I've Tracy, Kelly's brother, we went and worked out quite a bit, and Judy. You guys have always been inspiring to me. And it was to tell you, to be quite honest, I wanted to fit in with you guys again. I wanted to be, one of the fun ones. And you guys have always been an inspiration. So yeah, I lost 90 pounds. I quit smoking. I would like to say I quit working, but that didn't happen yet. I'm still trying to figure that out.
There is a whole bunch of people that would love to know you over COVID, when everybody pretty much else was gaining weight, you lost weight and you quit smoking. That is something to be incredibly proud of.
I'm extremely proud, maybe somewhat chagrined, just because I know that if I weren't as stubborn as I am, I probably couldn't have been able to do that. So if you can channel things, and I just figured out how to channel my stubbornness into, the quitting of the smoking and the watching the food intake and everything. And it did a good thing for me.
So the food intake, if you don't mind me asking, did you go on a very specific diet?
Not specific, not at all. What I needed to do for myself is just because, I mean, I'd been overweight since I started curling. I'd been overweight since I was pregnant with my daughter.
Okay, so it was the pregnancy, not the curling that
It
caused
was the pregnancy, not the curling, that caused the weight gain. Yeah, for sure. And it was just, you know, I'm very closely approaching 50 right now. And my whole entire adult life, you learn to overeat and it becomes a way of life. So what I needed to do for myself was learn what it felt like to be hungry. And then from there, you know, you increase it so that you know what it's like just to feel satiated, to be comfortable, and to be able to get in the hack without feeling like Humpty Dumpty was a goal.
Thank you very much, Jody. I know you're making light of it, but you know, it's like I said, it's you should be so proud of yourself. So it's kind of probably already been given away. Normally there's 4 people on a curling team and you're all wearing your jackets. And the reason we don't have the lead being interviewed is because it's me. I can't interview myself. For me, I want to say I've been curling since I was 25. I was way late to the table, but it's given me 15 years or so with this team. Incredible, incredible camaraderie. And I brought my children into it as well. And I just hope that we can inspire anyone who's thinking about possibly heading to a club. We have a few of them here in Thunder Bay. Please do it. Thank you so much for joining me. Till next time.